Welcome back to the Globally Black Summit. My name is Seyitan Atigarin, and if you're just joining us, this is a celebration and showcase of Black women leading to create a better world, powered by She Leads Africa. In the first part of the summit, we celebrated Blackness in dance, beauty and fashion, and discussed what organizing for change should look like. In this second part, we'll dive into some of the major health and social issues that have been at the forefront of debates this year, and then close off with some important finance and career conversations, starting with a short documentary from South Africa about a woman's experience with female genital mutilation. Written, produced, and directed by Paleo Mashao, this film won the award for Best Documentary at the University of Witwatersrand Film and TV 2019 Awards. I'm reminding you again to stay connected and involved, so don't forget to tag us at She Leads Africa and use the official hashtag GloballyBlack2020 on all your social media platforms. Don't go anywhere.
Ke noma sonto ke tswalwa ha Tshotetse ke holetse Vrystaat Thabantjhu ke motho o ileng hore o itholetse ho no ho sena bonokwane ha ne re hola ka nakong tseo tsa rona ho holeng ha rona mme o na le lerato le makatsang la botswadi mo ileng hore mme ha na tswa mosebetsing re ne re tseba hore re tlo fumana eng ka hare ho mokotlana wa hae
ka mo sheba le motle hlwena ya ho tletse dikobo e tle di khobe.
Ouch.
Sa le tsolena wena.
It's
motle ba ngwanana ba mamellwa ngwanana go bona hlo ya hao di khobe jwa ngwananyana jwa tsa matswana khale bana ya tshabe ya hlo ena ka nnete ngwanana wa tiselletsa wa mamella o bolelle he manyeo
lapeng re ne re se bangata ho mme wa ka re ne re le bana ba babedi e la butwa ka le nna ene le mme ya leng hore o na le lerato baneng ba hae a re hlokometse re ne re le bana ba ratang ho bapalla naheng o kile wa bona ha le tsamaya le bana le bapalla naheng ho monate jwang mo le bapallang le kopane le ntse le bapala dibeke wa tsa ho le monate hobane e ne le papadi e ne re rata re leng bana Empa ne di fapane dipapadi, ho no hona le bo diketo, ho no hona le bo di keng tse ding tse bo Black Mampatile, empa rona ne re rata dibeke haholo. Ha re kena moo, ha ba re dule le rona ka kitchen, ba re nka ba re isa ka hare ka morengwe le fifinyana ka moo. Ha o bone motho ka moo, empa wa utlwa hore ho na le batho ba baholo ka moo hara ntlo eo. Re sa re dutse, re utlwe ba re tshwara, ba re hatella ka mangwele. O kile wa utlwa lengwele la motho wa moholo le ho hatella ngwanaka. Sa peni eo ngwanaka nkekebe ka pheta ke lebetse bophelong ba ka, hobane e ne e le peni e bohloko e ke sa tsebeng hore ke ya eng. Jwale ha ke tlo tholisisa hantle, e ne ka ntho eo ke lebollo la banana ba bolotsa banana, empa madi a na le moo ngwanaka, ke a o jwetsa e ne e le madi a tshabehang. Ka mokgwa kileng ka bana le ntho eo e ke boneng e kileng ka e utlwa hore e bohloko, ke ile ka ipolella hore wa tseba ha se bophelo bo ke batlang ho bophela. Jwale ke ipolelletse hore bophelong ba ka, bana ba ka nkekebe ka ba tlohella ho etsa ntho e bohloko jwalo. Ngwana e mong le e mong o na le tokelo ya ho ikarabela le ya ho ikgethela ntho a batlang ho e etsa bophelong.
Hi there, my name is Silava Junogana, founder and intellectual at Esaneva Organics South Africa. Esaneva Organics produces organic, GMO-free, and vegan products. Our passion is to source our ingredients from different African countries. The inspiration behind Esaneva was driven by my personal need for clean and sustainable products that were actually effective for my skin and my hair. Esaneva offers an exciting range that includes our chebe powder products. Chebe powder is a super ingredient that originates from Chad in Central Africa, where the women are known to have 30-inch, 4A, 4B, and 4C type natural hair. To find out more about our exciting product range, go to www.esaneva.co.za. savaorganicsuk.com for international shipping, or for domestic shipping within South Africa, go to www.savaorganics.com. You are also free to check out our social media platforms. Our Instagram and Twitter handles are at @SAVA_organics, or check out our Facebook page at SAVA Organics. SM Ava, the Skintellectuals.
Every woman should have the right to choose her own destiny. I mean, word, right? Word from writer-director Paleo Mashao. If you're still with me in this conversation, I'd like you to right now, at this moment, drop a globally black fist emoji. Before I open my eyes, I want to see that emoji. Is it there? Okay, I think it is. From the preparedness of our healthcare systems to the enforcement of laws protecting women against sexual assault, our next segment takes a look at some of the health and social issues that have been at the forefront of public discourse in 2020. Remember that no matter what your opinion is, a healthy debate is always necessary for progress.
In 2019, there was a huge increase in gender-based violence cases. All the media coverage was about the GBV, gender-based violence.
What can be done to stop this epidemic?
I know what you're all going through.
In moments of turmoil, we look to our leaders to navigate us through difficult economic and trying times. But where are they when it comes to protecting our women and children?
Something has to happen. Our president has to do something.
So what will work? How do we heal South Africa?
I think we need a reshuffling of plan and moving forward and a proper strategic plan, working with activists on the ground, working with feminists on the ground, because we're the ones who are seeing it.
As South African women continue to seek justice in a system that has failed them time and time again, these ladies are picking up their capes to be their own heroes and heroes to many.
I'm Lorraine Khoza. I'm 23 years old, born and raised in Mpumalanga, South Africa. I am the chairperson and founder of the Lorraine Khoza Foundation, which is a non-profit organization that assists victims and survivors of gender-based violence with psychosocial support, legal advice and assistance, and then when they have to be placed in shelters, we do that. So outside of that, our day-to-day job, we host gender-based violence intervention and prevention programs where we go to disadvantaged communities to raise awareness, and then also try and find ways in which we can empower women so they're less dependent on their male counterparts. We've been fully operational since last year. We registered with the Department of Social Development, and then later on this year we were declared a public benefit organization. I myself am a survivor of sexual assault. When in just 2 months into varsity, I got sexually assaulted. I was beaten up to a pulp. I don't even know how I made it out, but I realized that there were so many things that were not done right from the justice system. Imagine from 2015 until 2020, I'm still attending court. I only received a message letting me know that, oh, we found him, we'll let you know when you have to go back to court. Until 2016, they called me, Lorraine, this guy has violated another lady. Do you still want to proceed with the case? What question is that? Do I still want to proceed with the case? When did I ever say I want to stop? They let him out to an extent that he had to violate another woman for them to actually take action.
First and foremost, let's fix the justice system. You know, there's no real prosecutions that take place.
I think it's about time that South Africa launches a gender-based violence unit.
Because of the injustices that were there, the justice system and the stigma around being raped, I needed to change that.
The investigation process is extremely flawed. So by the time the prosecution gets the docket, they are unable to prosecute, and most of the time these people are let out on bail, they go back and they re-offend.
So that's how I decided that there needs to be an organization for women and children.
The devastating effects of GBV extend beyond the woman to her family and her society. An in-depth approach has to be executed on an individual level, social and structural level that is responsive to cultural differences.
I do have psychologists that have, also volunteered their professional skills to ensure that victims or survivors who need critical intervention are attended to. And we also work closely with the Department of Social Development in Mpumalanga because we want to empower them. We believe that if women are independent, then they become, for lack of a better word, they become less prone to domestic violence because they have a voice.
I am tired of coming to a gathering where we have to mourn sisters because of men. I'm tired.
We are looking into, going into male-dominated industries and bring men to be a part of the conversation. I want the foundation to house women and children that are vulnerable someday. I need the foundation to have a one-stop center where people can come any day and report their cases and find the solution. I want to reach out to as many women and children as possible, and I'd love to, be in partnership with other women who are doing what I'm doing in other countries. I need us to be able to influence policies. There needs to be reforms, legal reforms. The constitution needs to, move from shifting the blame on the victim to making the perpetrators account.
When I was 11, I was molested by someone very close to my family, someone who I trusted, I admired.
Our kids are not safe, our women are not safe, because normally this person doesn't rape one person. You find that person have raped more than 5 people, and it's hard for the victim to live in the community because you go to the shop, you meet the very same person who did that to you. How are you going to heal?
Like this kid, she's 12 years old. She was raped by her uncle. I spoke to her and, I didn't want to overwhelm her with that information that I too have been there. I don't need to make this about me, but I had to bring it in so that she knows that, I've been there and I'm here. So I've been in contact with the mom to find out the progress, and I even spoke to her on the phone because when we spoke, I told her, you wake up in the morning, Nana, you bath, and if you want to go play, you go play with your brothers and sisters. If you want to, go somewhere, you let mom know this is where I want to go, and don't beat yourself up for it. I tried to break it down as simple as I could because I'm dealing with a child here, and the mom called me and she said she wants to talk to you, and I was happy to speak to her, and she told me, Ceci Lorraine, I do bath in the morning like you said, and I do try and play, and I'm asking you, how are you feeling? Do you cry? She's like, no, I've been feeling so much. I cried. I couldn't keep it in because I realized that I am actually doing something, and
In 2020, Lorraine was honored by President Ramaphosa on her work and efforts around gender-based violence and the upliftment of women.
When all of that happened, I was honored. I really was honored and more motivated to, continue and do what we do best. But most of all, I'm happy that a young girl somewhere who has went through what I went through will know that there's actually life after this. I just want to let people know that we should never normalize abuse. We should speak out on it, and we should call out everyone. If there's someone in your family that has been doing something like this, do not keep it within. You are a part of the problem. If people do want to collaborate with our organization, or they want to partner us, or they want to support the work that we do, they must feel free to reach out to us. They can reach out to us on social media, Lorraine Khoza Foundation, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. That is how a lot of people reached out to us. Wherever you are in Africa, reach out to us. A woman being murdered in Nigeria is the same as a woman being murdered in SA. It is the same thing. So let's work together and unite towards a gender-based violence-free society.
As Lorraine takes on the law and works to address issues that contribute to GBV, we visited another hero, Mandisa Giani, founder of Pink Forum, an organization that works closely with younger women in primary and high schools.
My name is Mandisa Giani. I'm 26 years old. I'm from Kempton Park. I am the founder of the Pink Forum. It's a non-profit organization that creates safe spaces in high schools, primary schools. I started the Pink Forum in 2019, around March, but the concept was still in beginning stages. What led to the Pink Forum is that I used to host workshops at schools. So we used to call them self-love and self-care workshops for girls mainly. There was this one kid though, and she found out that she has AIDS at 17. No one told her until she got really sick. Her mom didn't tell her, her dad passed away. So after I heard that story, I was like, no ways, there must be so many more kids who are carrying these huge, intense issues. They have no one to talk to, so let's start the Pink Forum. We realized that the social issues are too intense for me because I'm not a social worker. So how's about we go to schools and ask them to be based there? I got there, I sat into the teachers' meetings, social workers' meetings, and I was like, no, but I deserve to have one space where the kids know that Mandisa will be found here. And then the teacher was like, okay, no, let's get you a space. We love what you do, let's get you a space. And then I saw the space and I was like, oh no, this is not pretty. So how's about we paint it pink? And then that's how the Pink Rooms came about. We also just recently partnered up with a cooperative of social workers. So it's literally like squad goals.
I came to know about the Pink Forum when they came to present in a school where I'm based as a volunteer social worker. And I had to sit down with them because they were coming in to create safe spaces for the learners. And that's when I got involved with the Pink Forum, in that they were selling their concept to us as a school, and we needed to know what are they going to offer the learners. And they did say they are there to create safe spaces for the girl child. When it started, it was focused on the girl child. But we have evolved to encompassing both the girl and the boy child.
Pink Forum, it really differs too much because of if kinal matata or I get to keshap ke khona tla mo skolong because of ke gona mo loring ke khona tla le social worker ka lo tse loring da tshwenya.
The reason why we have social workers now is because as soon as you say to a kid, please go to social development, now they must rebuild trust. Now they must try speak to another stranger. So it's better if they see the social workers as a team,
Nelile mathomo ke bolela le social worker this year.
The cases that we have dealt with from last year and this year are just before the COVID-19. It was mainly girl children who were going through challenges, behavioral problems mostly, and most of them, they were showing signs of reckless sexual behavior. And we also had a number of cases whereby the family structure wasn't conducive for the optimal growth of the particular child.
We launched the Pink Forum, the Pink Room initiative on the 10th of October 2020 at Khatlamping Primary School. The launch was so beautiful. We had the First Lady, Dr. Ramaphosa.
And we never thought that within the first year of us starting the Pink Forum, we will actually host the First Lady, Dr. Ramaphosa. We never thought it was going to happen.
Her being here means everything to me, you know, because we share, just in the conversations that we were having when we're doing the walkabout, we share the same vision, we share the same love for kids, the same love for our country. So that meant a lot, especially for such a small NPO, you know.
It's been leaps and bounds, but yeah, we are making progress.
I'd love to say things are all roses and rainbows, but they are gatekeepers. There are gatekeepers. There are people who want townships, rural areas to stay the way that they are.
Our main challenge at current, just like any other NGO, is funding.
Because a lot of the work, the beautiful work that you see is of my own little money and donations as well.
Make use of these details to donate.
Obviously, the importance of safe spaces is that kids get help immediately, you know.
So ne ke tla ba tswela pele ka mmereko ba o dirang ba ska give up ba direle dikolo tse dingwe nto ba dirang le botsana. God bless them.
Yeah, so what are things I'm grateful for in 2020? First, I'm alive. That's one thing I'm grateful for. And two, I've been able to understand what I really want from life. So I'll say clarity in purpose. Now I know what I want to do. I know what I have to give out to the society to be a better person. And I know what I really want for myself.
Hi everyone, my name's Tracy. What am I grateful for in 2020? Amongst so many things, I'm really still grateful that I have my job. I'm still making a great impact there, and I'm still really happy with the company I'm working for. Another thing that I'm really grateful for is the fact that as much as we're disconnected physically, we're able to connect with so many other people over the phone, making new friends, creating new relationships. And those relationships that were previously broken, we're able to mend them. Definitely grateful for that. The other thing that I'm really grateful for is just the fact that I'm still alive and I'm still breathing and I'm still happy. I'm still grateful for that. But yes, do reach out if you can.
Hey, my name is Mona. What am I thankful for in 2020 in one word? I am thankful for life. Where there's life, there's hope. This year, 2020, has been so much on basically the whole world. And unfortunately, we've seen people die, we've seen people fall sick, we've seen things happen. And what I wake up grateful for every morning is life. Yeah, I'm also thankful for this year I was able to travel for an internship program. I got the opportunity to experience a new country, new culture, make friends.
My name is Nazan Tlangula from South Africa. I am grateful for life. If there's one thing that 2020 has made me to be grateful for, is the gift of life. Being able to wake up in the morning, being healthy, have a sound mind, have ideas to still continue living is one thing that I am grateful for. Thank you.
On January 30, 2020, the World Health Organization announced that a new coronavirus, which originated in the Wuhan region of China, was now a public health emergency of international concern, the World Health Organization's highest
I'm
level
declaring
of
a
alarm.
public health emergency of international
Time ago,
concern.
the World Health Organization declared the outbreak an international public health emergency.
On February 27, Nigeria announced its first case, an Italian man on a business trip.
The presence of the first case of coronavirus disease confirmed in Nigeria.
With lessons from the Ebola outbreak in 2014, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control went into overdrive to stop the spread of the virus, especially at the heart of the most populated city in Africa, Lagos. By March 24, barely a month since the first case was discovered, Lagos had confirmed 44 new cases and 1 death. Following the advice of public health officials, the state government issued a statewide lockdown to curb the spread of the virus.
An estimated population of 21 million people are being told to stay indoors.
However, in a mega city like Lagos, a lockdown comes with many unpredictable circumstances. 8 months after the initial lockdown, we follow the stories of 3 women who rose above the circumstances and made sacrifices to support their communities. These are the heroes of COVID-19. When Dr. Alera Roberts, a public health expert from the University of Lagos, first heard about the virus in January, she started planning an extensive strategy for what she knew would be inevitable. Bringing her knowledge from the front lines of the fights against cholera, polio, and Ebola, her and her team of competent healthcare professionals provided high-level guidance to the Lagos state government as it battled the pandemic.
It's very difficult to define the role that I played as an individual because this is very much a team effort. So I think it'll be safe to say that as a public health physician, the Association of Public Health Physicians, particularly the Lagos State chapter, we all knew we had our work cut out for us. So we first heard about this, I would say, in the first week of January. And we were watching and listening for news. When it was declared a public health emergency of international concern, in all honesty, in Lagos State, at any rate, we went into action. We actually had the Emergency Operations Center up and running in January. We had identified the key actors, the key players, the key strategies that were going to have to be in place because we knew that the one thing we could not afford was an overload of cases coming to hospital. So, the gentleman walks in on the 27th of February, and we already had an emergency operations center up and running. We had our healthcare workers attuned, so there was already a very high index of suspicion. So we already had the strategies in place. We had identified where people were going to have to be isolated. We had identified quarantine strategies that were going to have to be put in place. And at that time, all the knowledge that we had, which was very, very, very little, we were already working to make sure that we could do the very best we can. We knew that our best strategy was going to be a public health intervention. We simply did not have the clinical capacity, the capacity for clinical management that higher income countries had. The strain personally came on each and every one of us that had to go out because there was a lack of personal protective equipment. Don't forget, this was started in China, which is literally the factory to the world. So the disruption in supply chains came almost immediately. And we had very little reserve, and that reserve had to be managed very, very carefully. But everybody was naturally afraid. Don't forget, at that time, the information we had about the pandemic was also little. Who did it kill? How fast did it kill? What were the symptoms? We were hearing such scary news from the higher income countries that we thought, my goodness, if that's what's happening to them, how is it going to hit us? We had no knowledge of how bad it would get, if it would get very bad, and we had to walk out to battle an enemy we could not see with weapons we did not have.
So that put a strain, a huge mental strain on a lot of us. Then there was the strain of separation from family. For a lot of the frontline workers, the clinical staff, we had to separate them from their families. And that was difficult. Some of the issues and the reactions that we had to deal with at the level of the Lagos State Health System involved a generalized non-compliance to public health interventions. It took a very long time for us to get the public, the citizenry, to understand that this is a very serious disease. It can kill, it does kill, and the fact that a lot of people may be asymptomatic to it doesn't mean that those people were not in a position to spread it to people who are more vulnerable. So my first experience of a casualty of the pandemic was really close to home. And this was the father of a colleague of ours who caught it while battling an underlying medical condition. And it was a light bulb moment, because suddenly it became so very real, so very personal, and so very painful to not be able to do anything to mitigate the situation. It was even more painful when we lost a physician in the teaching hospital who hadn't had as high an index of suspicion as he ought to have had, and caught it while trying to save a mother's life. These are pinpoint instances where the pain becomes real and you begin to think, this could be anybody. Of course, it didn't help that COVID swept through my household. I got it, my sons got it, my father got it, my husband got it, and he had quite moderate symptoms. We knew we were in the best position in terms of being able to access service. But that hadn't helped some people, and we had no guarantee that it would help him. With all that has happened, how am I doing now? It's a tough question to answer. I know I'm tired, fatigued from the very depth of my being, because we're not at the end. We're not at the end. That's number one. Number two, there's another one coming. If this could come, be sure there's another one coming. With climate change and what have you, there is no telling what new infections are brewing and where. And with the gaps that we have seen in service delivery, we know that we are not thoroughly equipped to handle the next one. So how I'm doing now? Phew! But we soldier on.
In the end, Dr. Alero and her team were pivotal to flattening the curve in Lagos, saving its fragile healthcare system from being overwhelmed. At the same time, about 30 kilometers away, deep in the heart of Ikorodu, Ajibola Babalola, a food scientist and digital learning entrepreneur, noticed an inequality exacerbated by the lockdown from watching her children adjust to the new normal of learning from home. She realized that lower income families would have to make the horrific choice between school materials and putting food on the table. Not want to see a problem and walk away, she launched the Learn with Notebook project, a campaign aimed at sharing 10,000 notebooks and learning materials to help the distanced learning of low-income kids.
Due to the COVID pandemic virus, it came in unannounced on everyone, including the schools and the children. So it has really put so much strain on them, because most of them don't know how to fit into this new normal of learning at home, new normal of learning through virtual means, new normal of learning from the TV. And we discovered also that some of them could not keep up with the pace. So most of them now have to form clusters, learning in cubicles, learning in shops. They went to distribute notebooks, and we saw close to 60 children in a very small cluster. I was wondering what they were doing there. They were practically learning. So it's really a strain on the family, because most parents could not even know the next step. They are not teachers. So most of them had to take up the role of teachers, have to put the children in school also, in small clusters. During the pandemic, I started the Learn with Notebook project, a project targeted at providing 10,000 notebooks to children in my community in Ikorodu, Lagos State. The aim of the project was to spur up the need for the children to keep learning despite not being in school, because we believe that a book and a pen in the hand of a student or a pupil gives him a reminder that I'm supposed to learn, I'm supposed to put something down, I'm supposed to keep on doing what I used to do in school. The experience has been fulfilling and also challenging, because going to those communities, most of them have high expectations of you. When you get there, they feel you're the government. They tell you we don't want only notebooks, we want something more. And it's really very difficult trying to draw the line, telling them that we are not the government, we are not a political party, we are just here to do good. On the 9th of May, when we started this project, the very first place we went to, when we distributed, a woman came out from nowhere and tore the books. She practically tore them and said we should send our reports back to the government that they need more than notebooks, that the children needed food, they needed money. And we were dazed. This is notebooks we got from fundings from friends and families, and you tore it in our presence. For us, it was a very discouraging outing, the first outing for that matter. But we're able to move on. Now, the interesting part is that same day, we got calls from children, because our numbers are written on the books, and they were appreciating us for the books we brought to them. And there was a day we went out and we met a fufu seller. She sells fufu, and she came to us asking if we could give her notebooks for our children who were to resume school the next day, lesson the next day. She was practically at the point of tears. We were so happy to give her those books. So it's really strange for people to understand that you can just do good for doing good sake. Every time we were to go out for distribution, as a mother, the first thing that comes to my mind is, where will I put my children? How will I attend to their needs while I'm on the field? Sometimes, my husband actually works out of the state. So whenever he's not coming home during the weekend, I usually look for someone to come over to take care of the children, or I drop them off in a neighbor's place. And, it's kind of strenuous. I've had strains on my finance too, because the project is purely funded by family, friends, and few NGOs. So anytime we don't meet up with the targets to buy notebooks, we usually take up from the family finances to augment what is actually left. Getting funds from family and friends has been exhaustive, because there was a point I had to open up to my family and my husband that I don't know who to ask for money again, because I've asked all my friends, I've asked all my families. I've had issues having a strain on my health and my team's health, because COVID-19 is actually a dangerous virus, and going out when everybody is supposed to be staying in posed so much threat to us, because you can't actually keep social distance when you're talking to children. They just want to cover you up. And can we get books? Some of them can even sneeze on you, and at the end of the day, you get home, you wash up from head to toe. And there have been times where we had to distribute books under the rain, the days where we were drenched to our pants. It was so bad that we were shivering throughout, but in all, it's been fulfilling. One of the most interesting outcome for us with this project is the fact that we're able to, in our own little way, stir up an awareness of continuous learning. Now, taking a notebook to a community shows, it brings an image to the mind of the child that this is education. So for us, one of the greatest outcomes is that it has spurred the need for continuous learning. It has raised an awareness that you don't necessarily need to be in the four walls of a school to learn. You can learn at home, you can learn wherever you are. So that for us has been achieved. Another thing that has been achieved is that the children have seen that they are catered for, they are not neglected. And one of the ways I believe children can really be developed is through education. Personally, I'm fulfilled. I'm fulfilled that anytime I receive that call from those children, I feel that something has leaped out of my body, something has gone out of me despite my lack also. Like I said, I don't have everything, but in my lack, I've also been able to extend my hands to those around me. Even my volunteers, they've done so well. They leave their jobs, they leave their places of comfort just to do this project. For me, it's been rewarding, and I'm happy I'm into this.
Struggling to access resources quickly enough, the Learn with Notebook project continues to work to meet its target. So far, Ajibola has contributed 5,995 notebooks, and 5,468 pens and pencils in Ikorodu and Abuja. As the lockdown continued, more vulnerable families who lost their income struggled with a bigger problem: food shortage. Aderunke Onikbede, an NGO founder of the One Child, One Care initiative, took on the challenge to help the most vulnerable families.
The reality of poverty, of the complaint during pandemic was obvious. It was conspicuous because our office, like I said earlier, reside at the Magodo Sherry. So there's no how you will get to the office. When you drive through, you see it. It was glaring to their eyes that people needed help, needed support. Individually, most of us had people, even had members, because when we discuss on the group, people share their experiences. As members, everybody had a family or a friend calling to ask for 2,000 naira, 1,000 naira just to buy basic food needs. It was that bad during the pandemic. Everybody knows Nigerians live on day-to-day income. People that sell pure water will live for the 50 naira gain, or people that sell food on the road will live for the 500 naira gain. So it was something that no one could turn a blind eye to. You can't deny the fact that it was there. So it was right there, and we just knew that we needed to do something about it. We can't sit down and watch people suffer. People have needs. They reach out to us individually. We don't have the money. We also, normal average Nigerians trying to make ends meet. Most of us are on paid employment. Some of us are doing our own businesses, and we know how difficult these things are. So we just felt, okay, together as an NGO, we can raise. People trust us to this extent. People see us that we are transparent enough, so we can raise our voices and ask for donations and put these donations together. Get referrals, from people to refer families. We had to use the referral. That's even the unique part of it, because we felt these families are not on social media, so they cannot even see what these requests are. But there are people that know these families. Either they live around them or they live close to them, either in churches, in mosques, all over in the neighborhood. So they will reach out to us. So the unique thing was that we could now confirm the data they gave us, and transfer the money. We are all to share the requests on our various platforms, social media platforms. And so when we got requests, we got loads of requests, over 1,000 requests from people seeking for fund and support. And so we had a committee that was calling people. We had like 4 of them that called to confirm, what their actual need is, just to be able to classify which one was going for who. And of course, then we had members that did the background check. Someone would go on Facebook to check if what they were claiming was true. Yes, that couldn't meet the low income families, but it helped a little because all the requests came from referrals. People had to refer you before we can support you. After running the online COVID palliative fund, we realized that there was so much needs. Truly, we had over 1,000 entries. We could not meet all because we were limited with fund. Whatever donations we give were basically from funds, so we are limited. But we're able to receive food materials. We were able to get food items. We had 1 or 2 partners that donated food items to us. So when we got those food items, that's got us excited and told us that means we can do something with this instead of just sharing this. This is small. Can't we get more? So when we started telling people that we're going to do food palliative, not even fund anymore, people were like, okay, this is good. Let's see how we can support you here and there. So we're able to get more food, bag of rice, cartons of noodles and all that. So we're able to pull that together, for the community. And we just felt, let's see this time around let's reach out beyond online. Let's do a physical, support for these people. When we got to this community, the palliatives that were full of 2 trucks looked as if it was nothing, just like a bucket. It was so little compared to the number of people that needed it. The families that received the palliatives, I can't share all. It was overwhelming. Most of them don't even know me. They don't even know me. The people that called them can share more on that because they called them back. Some were even cutting the calls and they kept calling, and all they wanted to do was just to say thank you. It was overwhelming. They didn't expect the money. They even felt it was government because they felt, how can an individual NGO do this much? So you get them send SMS, we still have them on our phones. People send SMS, kept praying and said they weren't expecting it, that you don't know what you have done to our family to save us from hunger. Some were very smart. They divided the money to use a part of it to start their business. They told us this much. use the other parts. And there was a physical one that I personally experienced. I went to the market one day, and these two young men, elderly, not very young men, but middle-aged men, walked up to me and said, "You were among the ladies that shared palliatives." They spoke in Yoruba, shared palliatives in the community. My wives were so happy. I was so happy. That week you were our saving grace for that week. And the effect on the bottom line of all the projects we had during the COVID was we feel is maybe not physically, maybe there's no transformation in this family, is having a new house or new clothes and all that, but it was a need at the particular time, and we were able to meet that need. So maybe we've crossed a few T's, maybe not all the T's, but if you focus it, we've made some dots, we've made impact in their hearts, because the feedbacks keep coming in, and that shows that the effect has been massive to this family, especially at that time of need. There's a time of want and there's a time of need. So at that time of need, we're able to reach that bottom line for these families, and I think that's fair enough. For those who would like to recognize who did amazing work on the front line, is no one else but our members. Our members were amazing during the COVID period. I shared that we had members, that were always there, always available, both online and physical, to be at projects, to be online, to 2 a.m. We are talking, we are chatting, and they are always there. So it's just the members, the donors, and of course, our friends.
Focusing on low-income and special needs families, Aderonke organized a food and fun drive that supported over 400 families with over $10,000 and 3 truckloads of foodstuff. As she leads Africa, we celebrate every woman who rose up to the aid of their families, their friends, their community, and their country during the period of this pandemic. We cannot thank you enough. Keep leading Africa.
My name is Justine, and thank you so much for having me, SLA. I have with me new music who's playing acoustic guitar, and I've got some songs for you. I pray that you like it. There's so much going on right now. I hope this song can convey what it is that we're going through this time. Hey. Hey. I know. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes we forget what we're living for, but take a cup of sugar to the guy next door. You've always got something to be grateful for. Yeah, they keep on telling me to chase that degree, but I don't know if it's for them or me. At the moment, I'm stuck somewhere in between. Yeah. Knowing that I practically up on the screen, somewhere far away, chasing my dreams. Gonna be bigger than anything they've ever seen. And by that I mean be trying to be who I can't to be. Cause the way that they choose to measure me up may not always go in my favor. But sometimes it's not about whether you're smart, it's more about what you've paid for. Sometimes life seems like a game. It's no wonder we're all going insane. If I die tomorrow, could I say that I lived? Could I say that I lived and believe it? There's so many songs I haven't sung, many races that I haven't run. I'm not sure if I've even begun. Could I believe it? Oh, but help me believe it. I'm looking at the world and I don't like what I see. No, killing each other for no reason than hate and envy. Oh, brothers and sisters are out here dying on the street, and not far from me, child has nothing to eat. What are we doing if not raising our voices? Hey, it's our life to live, but what's with the wrong choices? Oh no, let's eliminate the poverty and injustice. Cause even if we don't agree, I know that I believe in you and me. Oh, cause the way that they choose to measure us up may not always go in our favor. But sometimes it's not about whether you're smart, it's more about what you paid for. Oh, sometimes life seems like a game. Yeah, it's no wonder we're going insane. Oh, but if I die tomorrow, could I say that I lived? Yeah, could I say that I lived and believe it? So many songs I haven't sung, many races that I haven't run. I'm not sure if I've even begun. Can I believe it? Oh, help me believe it. Lord, help me believe it.
The notion of period leave, is it something are we buying into? Because every woman has a unique body physiology during her period.
On menstruating women and period leave, I believe yes, every menstruating woman should actually get period leave, at least for the first 2 days of menstruation. Yeah, because you really can't tell how they are feeling. And if employers cannot do this, I believe that they should give us leniency. So think about flexi work. You should be able to work flexibly. You should be able to you know that if I'm doing a work of 2 hours, you know it's going to take 3.5 hours right now. Yeah, basically leniency. You don't have to clock in by 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. depending on the organization. So giving us leniency at that period of time would be appreciated.
And yes, women should get period leaves. We deserve it. Don't you think so? We do actually.
Do I think that women deserve a period break or leave? I mean, everybody deserves a break, right? Men, women, but we are created differently. And right now, as I'm standing right here, it's that time of the month. I might not have period pains, I might not have cramps or ever become bloated, but having to see my friends, sisters, and other women around me experiencing such pain and different feelings and emotions while they're on their periods. I think it's only fair that women deserve a break. So period leave is key for all women in this country and the world at large.
And that wraps it up for our segment on health and social issues. Up next is Kyenvu, the first Ugandan film to ever qualify for an Oscar. Written, produced, directed, and starring Kemiyondo Coutinho, a Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 recipient. Kyenvu is a feminist take on a woman's determination to assert herself in a patriarchal world. After Kyenvu, all the filmmakers we featured today will get together for a chat about the subject matters they explore in their films. You don't want to miss it. It's still the Globally Black 2020 Summit. Don't forget to tag us at She Leads Africa. I'm Seyitan Atigarin, your host. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you. All right, I'll see you 5 o'clock. Yeah, man.
Don't look, or she'll make you feel a bit sore. Same time that she drag you in the mud, boy. You think you got it made, boy? Hot sun, Kundi show. Nigga think you got it till she came on show. Yellow bone with the curly hair, right? Yeah. Think I'm on the ass with the girl so fine. Whoa, can't lay in the sun. Baby never do it if a nigga never run, yeah. Shots out when a nigga try something, right? Shots out when the homie try none, right? One take, one shot, babe. Fine girl never take a weak ass babe. One take, one shot, babe. Fine girl never take a weak ass babe.
Hey, girl. No. What? No, I can't hear you. You know, fucking Uganda network. No. I'm good. I'm just on my way to my grandma's house. Yeah. Huh? Wait, I'm in Amata too. Let me just call you when I'm home, yeah? All right.
Hold it then. Matatu.
Eba kazimwe. Bumusirira ko mwagisirira. Mutegede kuba yogede luzungu.
Yego obadde ki? Waze naye. Ndaba obulonze bulonzi ku kkubo nga ffe.
Manya oluzungu.
Twaliza muli.
Sebogenda. Nemudda kuba basingaze muntabula muwalana.
Kala obukala. Mufuula omuddugavu olabe bwafaanana.
Naawe era omusinga kala.
Kale laba kino. Musajja gwe neesonyiwa.
Era bamukolere ko lutabo bagenda.
Matatu. Conductor, Masao I.
Yena. Okomawa. Utaina setu mweke.
Tisimani wachona bajja munsi yaffe seriously. Bajja ate ne buli kimu.
Okomawa chikolote.
Oh my God. How embarrassing. I'm sorry.
No. It's fine. It's fine.
Conductor, next stop.
Huh?
Mecca?
$5. $5.
Dollars?
Kale mutwalo.
I have 5,000.
Kale rate ezo.
Leka kuba omukazi ziba 1200.
Owange. Obiyingira mu.
Ziba 1200.
Guno mulimu gwo Lugfalo kitafa kubikwatako. Omukazi ampadde 15 ate obiyingiramu.
Muleke nawe obocho omukazi.
Yeba ndira kuwezera ye.
Oba mbozi nawe.
Mama leta save.
Ziba 12.
Twali nawe wesiba ku bantu. Mpeze 5 ngenda.
Kwana zino 10 nyaza bantu aba.
Gwe nani?
Zinono.
Onwazera ye. Modere basoko sibo. Wesiba ku bantu.
Awayaye.
Asubira mukale na nobako kyakukolera.
No, he said it's okay. You don't have to pay.
Eba sibao.
No, he said it's okay.
Unimesha.
Bambozi nawe. Ezo mpisa mbi man.
Pisa chembi. Muyingira mbita bakwata ko kale kanda bekyana kolera yo. Osibasiba ku bantu.
He said it's okay. You don't have to pay.
Wali nyemwena. Wali nyaye.
Ojire ebiko.
Wesiba ku barama batwa tugende bakoyo muyayi.
Yo. You didn't have to do that, you know.
Oh, no, it's fine.
No, really, you shouldn't have done that. That I could have handled it myself.
But I was only trying to help and he was trying to cheat you, so...
By paying for me?
Yeah.
Oh, because that's not embarrassing at all. You know what, who the fuck cares if I lose 3,000 shillings, and if it keeps me from someone making a huge deal about it in front of a group of people, oh, I'll gladly lose it. Oh, but I forgot I'm a woman, so I need saving. Yeah, okay.
You know what, just give me back my 2,000 shillings then.
Are you fucking serious?
No, just give me back, you don't need
You
it.
asking me for 2,000 shillings back? Wow. 1, 2, you know what? Take 5.
Oh, and by the way, I'll use the change to take my shirt to the dry cleaner.
Oh, you got jokes?
Bye.
You know, goodbye to you too.
Nsaza kavere nenyuma Sitera kukolola ngolideko Pakinze remula jafe
Wiliba Jankube na muludo
Engeregeze nazinabe kolero
Gaba kansa Abira mwao Gaba kansa Avamo
Murwana dini Babala swa
Kiro achiti watodde bano
Nakwadde 12 Oli mulalu nakwadde 12
Conductor, next stop.
Kaza agambye avaamu tomanyi luzungu
yavaayo wano
agambye avaamu nga tusiba tamanyi luzungu
Excuse me.
No, it's 2,000.
Hey,
well done.
Oh, don't go see what it do.
You know that if the police actually did their job, I'd totally report you as a stalker.
I wanted to give you back your money.
Oh, okay. A flower?
Yeah.
Cheesy much?
No, it's not just a flower, it's a sunflower. I noticed you like sunflowers, so...
Okay, sunflowers, they're yellow, okay? Doesn't have yellow, it's just a flower. And flowers suck, unless they're a sunflower. Then they're pretty dope. So keep that whack-ass flower, because I don't want it. And leave me alone, okay?
I'm aggressive, I don't care. Give a damn niggas think I like royalty. My loyalty is to myself. King, check the numbers out here counting. I got paper on the ring. Don't touch me, I'm aggressive. Give a damn what niggas think. Don't touch him, aggressive. 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 Hey, yo, tell my nigga, who did you think I'm overwhelmed?
Do you just live at this taxi stage, or
I like you.
you don't know me, so you can't like me?
Well, I know that you like yellow.
Well, I don't hate you.
You shouldn't be walking over yourself, you know.
Yeah, now I hate you again.
That's
So you
because I
go
like
trying
you.
to save me. Stop saying that.
I like you.
Goodbye.
I like you.
Where'd you get these from?
I made them myself. Like, what, 3 months ago? When I told you that I like you? I like you.
Tomorrow.
What?
You're taking me on a date tomorrow.
Yes, yes I am.
You know where to find me, yeah? Same time, same place.
Jared! Koya, koya. Get out. Check it out.
My mini skirt.
Sebo.
You were late. Now is when you want to fucking show up. When I was
No, you don't have.
Yeah, no. I want you to hear what they did to me. When they raped me. That's what I needed. I needed Superman or Batman or anyone. Fuck! Don't you fucking touch me! I have been touched enough today. Thank you. Please, just go away, please.
I can't leave you like this, okay? We need to go to the police.
Say what? And say a wardrobe choice changed my fucking life. No, sir. I have things to do. I have to wash. You know what? You will be yellow again. Yes, you will. You will be yellow again, but I'ma wash you till you're yellow again, because I need to know you can be. I need to know you can be yellow again. And then so I'm gonna keep washing you.
I kept time. I didn't want to be late. And they stole my time. They stripped me and now I feel such hate. I feel this red rage. I feel raped of my sunflower in this black of dark. Will it ever be yellow again? Yellow again. Will it ever be yellow again? the blood stain. My tears try to drain the red away. All I see is red, red, red. Will it ever be yellow again? This decay is cutting through my yellow dress. As I lie drenched in this red, I'm thinking, will it ever be yellow again? Yellow again. Will it ever be yellow again? Oh, yellow again. Will it ever be yellow again? Yellow again. Will this ever be yellow again? Yellow again. Will this ever be yellow
Hi everyone, so I'm Kemiyondo Coutinho. I am a Ugandan writer, filmmaker, director, actress, depending on the day, all the things. But today we're talking filmmaking with 3 other African female filmmakers from the continent who are creating content that I think should be seen not just on the continent, but outside of the continent. I'm very passionate about women behind the camera. I think a lot of times we talk about diversity and we talk about representation, and it constantly comes in the form of in front of a camera. But actually, I think the power is behind the camera. I think the power is in who is telling the stories. And I'm so excited to be talking to these 3 other exciting female filmmakers who are getting to share their lens with the world. So first off, I guess I'll introduce myself more. I started writing at the age of 17. I was writing plays, and I started writing because I felt like no one was really writing for the African woman. And so I wrote a one-woman show. It ended up going to the Grahamstown Festival in South Africa. And like that began my journey because I felt like, oh, there is power. And so then I went to the States. I ended up in acting school. And same thing happened. I felt like I was not seeing the women who looked, sounded, felt like me on my screen. So I started writing for screen, and that's how I became a filmmaker. I currently now am in LA, and I live and I work as a writer for both film and TV. I set up a fund called 5 for 5 that funds 5 filmmakers from Uganda to create their own short films. So I am very passionate about short films. I think that they can open doorways. I think that short stories can actually be quite powerful. So that's me. Louisa, would you like to introduce yourself and just share a bit about yourself, how you came to become a filmmaker, and just give us a little glimpse about your film. We'll go more in depth as we talk more.
Okay, I'm Luisa Kadri from Algeria. I'm filmmaker and producer. At the same time, I am journalist and student, second year in Georgia, master multimedia. My experience is 12 years in media and cinema, but I like cinema since childhood. So I used first camera when I was 9 years. So for me, cinema is a mirror for our stories, for our reality. So I think women is power for any society. So we can do it with cinema, with films, with anything. And we can talk about our issues, our society, our tradition, and I think we can do it.
Great. Vanessa, would you like to introduce yourself, how you came to film, and really just a small glimpse about what your film is about?
Okay, so my name is Paleo Mashao, and I'm from South Africa. So I went to a technical high school and I was good at it, but I just knew deep down that I really liked the arts and my school was not really focused on anything arts. So I knew that from there, I'm not going to do anything that has to do with math, science. Yes, I passed it really well, but I was like, that's not where I'm going. So after I passed my matric year, I decided to take a gap year. So when everybody was applying, I didn't apply. I just kept on saying, well, I applied somewhere, but I just didn't tell anybody. I even spend money that my mom gave me, but I'm not going to tell her. So after that, I took a gap year. And then during the gap year, I decided that, you know what, I really love storytelling. Even in primary, I did drama and everything like that. But I really want to do behind the scenes. I'm really passionate about storytelling, especially telling stories about Black women. So I decided to apply. I applied at first. I applied for one thing. I applied for film and TV. That was the only thing because I didn't want any second choice. That was my one and only choice. I applied for film. I got accepted. It was great. But throughout, I had a mentor, and my mentor told me, okay, Palisa, I've noticed ever since first year, you have a pattern. The only stories that you're always telling are stories about Black women. And I was like, I kind of knew, but it's not my first place. It's always a thing of, okay, I'm going to do a film about this. And then somehow it just leads me back to the story about Black women. And I think that has kind of been my journey from there. I don't have a long years journey in the industry because I was supposed to graduate in March, but I couldn't because of Corona, which is really sad, guys. But it's okay, we move. We move. It was so sad. So after that, I've been, I made a film, my graduation film, which is Lebollo. And I think, I don't know, it's my baby. I'm really proud of the film because it has opened up a lot of things. I'm even working with the African Union as a Salima Youth Victorious Ambassador for so that we can end the practice of FGM within Africa. So I guess, I don't know, I did really well with Lebollo. I really thought it out, and with my language, I knew what I wanted to put out, I guess. Yeah. So that's me.
Great. I have to say it's one of the best documentary shorts I've ever seen. Truly. Really, really beautiful. I think it's interesting. Was your mentor a Black woman? The one who pointed out the pattern?
Yes.
That's interesting. Because I always find it interesting when people ask me that, where they're like, oh, you always write about African women. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm an African woman. you know? And I feel like white men do that all the time. That's all they write about. That's all they write about. It's about white men. And so I find it interesting when people are surprised that Black women write about Black women and African women. Like every script I have has an African woman in it, because I'm like, why would I write a script that doesn't have me in it?
Yeah.
So yes, keep that pattern, because you should. I feel like as a Black African woman, we should exist in all our art pieces. Otherwise, we've failed ourselves.
True.
Elelwani, can you introduce yourself? Same thing, just give us a little synopsis, how you came to filmmaking and how you finally, like, just a little glimpse about your film.
Hi guys. Wow, you guys have such inspiring stories already. I feel like, wow, okay. I'm happy to be here. So my name is Rani, as I'm already introduced. I came into filmmaking. I mean, I think for me, I've always wanted to be a storyteller, but when I was growing up, I read a lot of newspapers and listened to radios a lot. So I thought I'm going to be a radio playwright. But here I am in film. So when I ended up at UCT, I was just like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a filmmaker. I want to tell, because it felt like it's the right medium for me. It was so compelling. 8 years later, I've managed to make a short film. I've made a few short films over the years, but A Story of a Baked Brownie, it's one personal project that I felt like I achieved a lot with that. And because it is about Black women embracing themselves as they are, just being brave. And I mean, we are dealing with a lot of issues about colorism nowadays. I mean, it's always been the case throughout the years, so not nowadays. But for me, I was like, as a Black woman, these are the issues that I grew up dealing with. And I want us to believe in ourselves just the way we are and keep inspiring and just, be confident, be brave, and feel beautiful in your own skin, and that you can be anything you want to be, and that's okay. And that's something that I strongly stand for. I also started a company called Tase Media. Tase literally means spark in my home language, and it's also a word that is used for the most, daring woman in the room, and for me, that's something that I think since I was 16, I've always believed in this word, Tase, as someone like who can change anything and be who they are. And I've taken that further to be my standpoint. All my short films, even if you check on Vimeo, they're about Black women. Like that's me. I've been in the industry for about 8 years, and I've worked on many international productions as a script supervisor. I've worked with, I don't want to name drop, but Champagne, hi. For me, I think he was someone that I really looked up to. I worked on Roots, films such as Dominion, but I mean, that's off topic, but it's just, I've been able to learn in the mainstream how major productions are made. And I see myself making one of those one day, and it's coming, for sure. And I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely, let's claim it. So I guess, let me just start with you, Lerwani. Your film, it was beautiful because it felt like an advert for Black women. And my favorite thing about it was how not only are you saying you are enough, you're saying you are enough as you are. There were images I've never seen. It's funny, I'm writing a film about a ballerina, a South African ballerina, actually. And this one of the things was, I was like, I've never seen an African ballerina on my screen. And then when I was watching your film, there's like this beautiful image of the ballerina in the film. And it's really subtle, but like because she has fuller breasts, when she lands, the breasts like bounce. That's something I've never seen. And it's something as small as that I think is representation, because we've learned what a ballerina is. And just with that frame, you change it. And so I just wanted to know how you went about choosing like which women you were gonna hyper focus on.
So it was quite a long process. And I'm also glad that you liked the ballerina bit, because finding someone like her was a bit of a challenge, but I knew that they exist, and I had heard about a few Black women. They live in the township, not even in your suburbia where people are so developed. So I knew if I go into the townships, and this is something that I can highlight. And it was finding her was, I don't know, now as you're mentioning it, as you're highlighting that, speaking of the filler breast and the way she lands, that is my favorite frame as well. I love it so much, to a point where I felt a bit touched when you spoke of it in that manner. The process I went through selecting the women was, literally, I wanted people that I know, that I've seen. Like, most of the women in the film are literally people that I know or I've seen online and felt like, wow, I'm happy this is what you are, how you embrace yourself on a daily basis, the way you look. If you look at their hair, at body shapes and everything, even whether they have a duke on or in, I was just like, I want to see the women I know and the women that I've not seen on screen portrayed in this beautiful manner as well. And I felt like the poem was very powerful, and for me it was just a matter of having the women that I know on screen in that manner.
Yeah, it was really beautifully done. I mean, every frame, it felt very specific. It felt very well thought of. Yeah, I just remember seeing that frame being like, wow, I've never seen that. So really, really beautiful stuff. I'm going back around, Felisa. I want to know more about your film, because it's a documentary, right? But it opens on a scene of would you say it's a grandmother and a granddaughter, or would you say it's a mom and a daughter? The scene where she's brushing her hair.
It's a mom and a daughter.
A mom. Yeah. I thought that was brilliant. It was such a brilliant choice. And not only, to me, it shows a filmmaker and a writer, because I think what you're showing is a lot of people like to tackle topics and say like, oh, this is about genital mutilation, and that's all they focus on. But what you did with that frame is like, no, this is a greater problem. This is how we see women. And we're telling young girls pain is a part of beauty. So we're like grooming them to think of this. So I just want to know like your process in thinking that, because I was like, this is brilliant.
When I was doing my research for the film, I watched a lot of YouTube videos. So the story started basically from my grandmother, because she went to an initiation school, but they never like talk about what happened there. It's not something that you tell people who have never been there. So I just became curious of if what she went through was very traumatic. So I just went through finding stories, and then I came across female genital mutilation. So I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I was like, there's a pattern here. And in this pattern, it's like the women, they're like stripped of their identity as, it's just female genital mutilation. That's all. You don't even remember their name. You don't remember where they're from. You just remember that this practice happened. So like I looked more into it. I did research. I spoke to survivors of the practice, and they told me the story. And then I got to understand that actually this does not come from a place of hate. It's actually a thing of parents wanting the best for their children. But just because they don't have the right information, they don't know that what they think is best is actually harmful for their children. So I was like, okay, there's a very brutal, and when you think about it, you just think of blood. So what do I want to see on screen? I don't want to see blood, but I want people to feel it. I want people to feel how deep this practice is without me actually saying it or showing it on screen. So I guess that's how a lot of things came to play. The relationship between a daughter and a mother, the relationship that we have when it comes to cows, the relationship when it comes to even just small little details, the silence in between. I just wanted people to like really think about it without me being in their face about it.
I think that's why earlier I had asked, is this a documentary? Because I've never seen a documentary shot in that way. I've never connected so deeply without, because usually documentaries like someone sitting down and telling their story. But I think what you did was you got their story and then you, through metaphor, through imagery, and through poetry, I would say, you like, it was just like layers. And that's honestly brilliant. Louisa, it's interesting to hear you talk about like being a journalist, because I see that in your work. And talking about genre, it felt very much like a thriller or a horror, watching like the opening. And I found that to be very, very strong, because usually it starts off with a little girl and then we see her, but you start at the end and it shows like this is what happens with underage marriage. And I just wanted to get more into like your thought process and how you told that story, because I think even that quote at the end, my God, it was very unsettling.
It's short film, fiction, of course, drama, and about underage marriage. I decided to make it when I heard about story from Yemen. She is girl in 9 years, married with older man, and she died in her first night. So I thought it is horrible. It is innocence. So why kill this innocence in your life? So I think to make this film for educate about this issue. About my film, it's a 3-minute short film, 3 minutes. Talked about a girl in 9 years, married with older man, and in this film, she hold and play with her doll, but he didn't know about your future life. Just he know about play, about games, about anything. But her mother gave her to another man, and like her father. So I think to make this film for more awareness, for more education about this issue, because I think it's sensitive stories in the world. And I told you, according to statistics, there is 12 million cases in the world about underage marriage.
One thing I also loved is you never let us forget it was a little girl. So it was always like you saw the doll, you saw the eyes. It was like, I even hate the term underage marriage. I don't think it should be called a marriage. Just the same way I don't think underage sex should be, it's statutory rape, you know? And so I think with that film, it's like, it's a child. Like you can't put those two, you can't put child and marriage together. It's not a marriage, because how can a child consent?
She didn't know what means responsibility. So it is her life. It is her beginning. So how kill this beginning? So I think 9 years or 10 or 18, it's not good for marriage.
Yeah, that's, yeah, really, really great. I'm really inspired by all three of you. You know, you all seem very young and got your pep in your step. Anyone can answer this question.
what advice would you give to your younger self? So the you that like hasn't shot one short film yet, you want to shoot a short film, you know, it's the you who just had the idea. What's the one advice you would go back and give yourself? Like my advice to myself would be like, prep. Like there's too much focus on what happens on set. And actually it's what happens before you get on set. Set should feel fairly easy if you've prepped. So prep every shot, prep everything. And when you get on set, you'll actually have more chance to play. Because I think a lot of young directors think, I'll figure it out when I'm on set. I don't want to be restricted. Actually, that's when you'll be very restricted. But if you have everything prepped before, you'll get everything done and then you'll have time to play. So that would be my advice.
For me, I told always work. And we can do it, anything. So I think it's possible for everything, for talking about our stories, about issues, about tradition, about society, so we can reach many stories to all the world.
That's important because I think sometimes we don't even think it's possible. So it is very important, I think, to remind ourselves or to remind younger versions of ourselves. That story you want to tell, you can tell it, you know.
For me, it will be believe in yourself and trust your ideas. Because I think a lot of, especially in film school, I used to work with a lot of guys and they were like, do everything because I like, they just like take over. And I was like, no, Balisa, your ideas are great and you must start believing in yourself. And from then onwards, that's when everything just started making sense because now I was like trusting myself and trusting my ideas. So basically, I will definitely tell my younger self to like believe in yourself. Your ideas are great. So just trust your ideas because they are good.
I hate to say this because we sort of like spoke about it earlier, but for me, it will be like complete something. But I mean, it's hard to complete something when you don't have the means. Like now I'm going to be speaking of like, okay, run around with your phone and do something, but maybe not that. But I would say specifically talking about the younger self in just really immediately after varsity and maybe 2 years within that period, I would be like, just complete something of your own, because if you don't do that, then no one can know that you can write, you can direct, you can film something. All you have is a graduation piece, you know? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, trust yourself, complete something, just anything. So that's what I would have said to myself then.
That's such great advice. It's very great advice because I know when I don't complete things, it's fear, actually. I'm afraid because it's easier to be like, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a writer, and not have the thing that people can be like, no, you're not. So I'm starting all this. I have this film about this, I have this film, but I never complete it when I'm afraid. But I think you're absolutely right about, I always tell people to have product. Until I had a short film, nothing in my career moved forward, like nothing. And then when I had a short film, literally every single job I've gotten has come from that short film because it got this job that ended up me getting up that job. But like it started with that short film, with that product. And so, yes, I definitely say complete your film. You can answer this question or not, just real quick. What was the budgets for your film? Mine was $3,300.
How much was ours?
For mine, it was, I mean, it's not a lot of money. It doesn't even come close. Wait, you said how much? $3,000?
$300, yeah.
$300.
$3,300.
I'm trying to calculate in my head how much it is like in rands.
Okay, I think I had a bit more.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
My budget was really tiny.
Yeah. So I'm trying to see in rands. I mean, we had we got 167,000 rands.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's like that's close to 10 grand, $10,000.
Yeah, that's close. Yeah, but there was a whole lot of things of using the red camera. I'm like, guys, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
For me is $1,500.
Wow. And you, Felisa?
It was just 2,000 rands.
Oh, $200. Great.
Just that. Because we had a good way of negotiating with people. So we just negotiated our way through the film. Everything was negotiated.
I just wanted people to hear that because I think it's important people see that there's like a variety of budgets. And honestly, I have one film that was $3,300, and then I have a film that was $10,000, and I prefer my $3,300 film in terms of like production value. I think that looks more expensive than this one. So I just think like you never, like your film, Felisa, looks more expensive than my film. And it's like a $200 budget versus $3,300. So I just say that all to be like, don't worry too much. I mean, you need money. It's like you need money, but also don't feel restricted. And you're always gonna want more money, no matter how much money you have. It's always never gonna be enough. I guess another question that I have is, what do you feel like in the time of COVID, right? As a filmmaker, what are you focusing on right now in this time? I think this is the time to focus on your writing, because I've been writing a lot, because this is the time, I feel like this is the one time there's a lot of quiet and there's no production going on, and we're forced to just be. And I also think something that is interesting about the industry is a lot of people are consuming content now. So funnily enough, it feels like the quarantine has really showed people the value of art and film and TV. And so I've been taking advantage of that and really hyper focusing on my writing. Louisa?
Yeah. Yes. For me with COVID, I think it's difficult time for every filmmaker, not for me or for you, because everything stopped. And with restriction, with increase many cases in the world, for example, in Georgia, it's a lot of cases here. So for me, it's difficult. For example, these days, I'm making a documentary, but I have problems with restriction and close the border. So I make my interview with Zoom online. So I think it's difficult, yeah.
Well, for me, I've been focusing on a lot of branching out my ideas, because I'm not a good writer. So, but I have ideas, and I was just like write them down and not really just actually expand them and see where they could actually go. So I've just been like working on developing my ideas, just so one day if I so happen to have money to shoot, then I have something like actually have this idea that has been developed to this extent, and then we can take it from like writing a script. So I've just been like doing that.
So for me, I feel like COVID-19 ruined like big plans. I should have shot my first feature in March. So that didn't happen. So what I've been focusing on was like, what I've been focusing on right now is writing, but I'm glad that we've sort of moved from that to now in pre-prod of the film. But throughout, I was locked down somewhere in Manila, and it was so hard for me to come back to South Africa. And the whole time I was trying to I had so many ideas, not just writing about film, but about like the books that I've always wanted to write, the scripts, and I'm that kind of person who always feels like I live for my passion, which is bad, guys. Like I'm like everything I see, whether I'm chilling with friends, we're having sessions, talking, I'm like seeing a script somewhere, But now this time has allowed me to be in my own space just by myself for so long that the only thing I have has been reading and writing. And you can only, I feel like when you're alone in your own space, it's like when you're restricted and you cannot go anywhere, it's like you either choose to be lazy or do something. And for me, I was just like, nope, I'm a creative. I'm going to try. It's going to be hard, but I'd rather at the end of these have something, whenever this ends, have something that I can then put out just for my own, fulfillment and just focusing on something that I really love and passion and storytelling at large. So yeah, basically I'm in the same boat as you guys, writing and just focusing on what I want to put out when this mayhem ends. Hopefully we won't be filming films like this,
Yeah. I just before we go, something else I'm interested in is what's your favorite software that you couldn't live without? That you feel has been very instrumental in your filmmaking career? That you feel like maybe you tell a younger filmmaker, invest. For me, it's Final Draft. I think
For me, definitely, it's Final Draft, but I also believe in Final Cut because I'm technical as well. That's me. So editing and creating videos and editing, if you see my work, I find healing in that. So there were times where I couldn't write, but I felt like I need to do self-portraits in a space that I am just to express myself. Yeah. So I do that as well. So there are times where I really know I'm in a space of just editing videos, putting the work out. But also Final Draft is like, I work on it every single day, whether it's my own script or someone else's script. Yeah, definitely.
That's my biggest regret, is not focusing when I was younger. I guess I can still do it, but I wish I had focused on editing, because I think that would have helped me a lot in terms of like saving costs and also just thinking as a filmmaker. I wish I had learned a technical skill. Louisa, what's your favorite software?
For my favorite is Final Draft also, and with the prediction, my team with the action 3, 2, 1 action with. I think it's favorite time with prediction. But when you finish your film and you see your final draft, so you will talk of finally.
Yeah.
So I think Final Draft is best.
Wow, we've got 2 votes for Final Draft, Vanessa.
For me, it has to be Final Cut and Premiere Pro. I really like putting things together. That's my favorite thing, putting things together.
Did you edit your film?
It was not me alone. We all 3 of us as a team, we put it together.
Nice. All right, real quick before we let you all go, just one line for everyone watching. One line of encouragement, one line to sum up how you feel about filmmaking, one line maybe to sum up how you feel about being a female filmmaker on the continent, and speaking to other potential female filmmakers on the continent that are watching this.
I would say take up space.
I like that.
Take up space.
It's a trick, one line. Writers are like, what? I think mine would be, this is my life mantra, hold the vision, trust the process.
That's a good one.
I believe in that too. Trust the process. complete something, support other filmmakers. 3 lines, sorry.
There we go. That supporting other filmmakers it's key. I learn more from other like artists. Like my writing has improved because of other writing, and like watching y'all's work will now improve my directing.
For me, trust your skills, and we are strong. We can challenge any restriction, any problems, and we can do it.
Yes, I love that. That's a good place to end. Thank you all so much. Take up space, trust the vision. Hold the vision, trust the process, complete something. We can do it. That's what we have to say. Thank you so much, She Leads Africa, for showcasing these films. Thank you for amplifying our voices in many ways and including the arts as part of that. Thank you to these beautiful female filmmakers for sharing some wisdom. And yeah, go out there and make these films. Go do it.
Take up space and trust the process. True for film and true for money. We're coming up to the last set of sessions to talk about work and, of course, money. How do you navigate the corporate world and secure the bag, especially in a tough economy? Well, you're about to find out.
The events of 2020 have turned workplaces upside down under highly challenging circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic. Many women have lost or struggling to do their jobs. Many feel like they're always on now that the boundaries between work and home are blurred. Like I know that's how I feel between like homeschooling or online schooling and work and being a wife and everything. I feel like I'm always switched on. They're worried about their family's health and finances, and burnout is a real issue. Women in particular have been negatively impacted. Women, especially women of color, are more likely to have been laid off or furloughed during the COVID-19 crisis, stalling their careers and jeopardizing their financial security. The pandemic has intensified challenges that women already face, which is true. In today's fireside, we're going to have a conversation about how to crush the corporate ladder. We'll share our personal journeys, Temi and I, and discuss the challenges that women are currently facing and the strategies you can use to move forward in your career. My name is Hilda Kabushenga Kragha. I am the MD of Roam Africa Jobs. Roam Africa Jobs is a parent company for the Brighter Monday platforms in East Africa and the Jobman platforms in West Africa, so Jobman, Nigeria, and Ghana. And our mission is to improve workplace productivity by making sure the right person is placed in the right job. I am originally Ugandan, but moved to Nigeria 5 years ago, eventually got married and settled here. So now I live here, and that's it about me. Temi, how about you?
So my name is Temi Adeniji. I am Nigerian by birth. My family moved to the US when I was much younger, when I was 9. We've been here ever since. In terms of my journey, I went to college at Princeton. I went to law school at Columbia Law School, and then got my master's from University College London. I practiced law for about 4.5 years as a debt finance lawyer. Before I did a complete U-turn, and now I am a music executive at Warner Music Group. I think through the session, I'm hoping to engage in a conversation with Hilda where we start to think about a little bit of some of the struggles that you face as being a woman as you're trying to kind of maneuver and navigate through corporate systems. My experience has been sort of limited to the US primarily, and working with colleagues in different parts of the world, primarily Western Europe. And I think that the experience is different, but there are some common threads that we can all kind of learn from. So I'm hoping for a very engaged and positive session here.
Okay, great. Cool. So my first question is actually going to be to ask you a bit more about your career journey. Do you want to dig some more into that, or happy to start and then you can go later? Let me know.
Yeah, I can dig a little bit into it. So the typical, career path being a lawyer, I did the 3 years in law school, and then I went straight into working at a big firm in New York. I switched firms after 2 years because I was feeling a bit of itchy feet, and I wanted to figure out whether it was sort of the environment that I was in that law firm, and just get a different feel. And when I got to the second law firm, it was very different. And I enjoyed it more, but I realized that it wasn't really about, the firm. It was just that I think that I decided that I wanted something a little bit more. So I guess like 3.5 years after I really got serious about the transition. And as I was thinking about transitioning, I didn't have a specific industry that I wanted to sort of be in. I decided that I really wanted to focus on what I wanted to optimize for my next step. And having practiced law for, a good chunk of time, I knew that I wanted to be on the business side. And what I wanted to optimize for was really learning from somebody or working with someone who's operating a business. Because my goal would be to eventually to run my own P&L and to manage my own part of a business or a business in general.
If I'm to compare my own journey, so I'm Ugandan. I'm actually a lawyer as well. So I did my undergraduate law school in South Africa, the University of Port Elizabeth. I think it's now called the Nelson Mandela University. Then went back to Uganda and worked for the central bank for a while. I think that was it was my first turning point, in the sense that my supervisor told me, hey, you need to get into private sector because you are too young to just sit at the bottom of a large government organization at the beginning of your career and expect the kind of growth that I see you looking for. And so I transitioned to KPMG. Doing transfer pricing, so a bit more commercial, but still quite legal. And at the time, I remember, again, second turning point for me, I kept thinking, what am I doing in Uganda? Because even in the best case scenario, I would be working on a project for the country office of the East African subsidiary, of the African subsidiary, of the EMEA subsidiary of a global corporation. And it just seemed so distant for me. I was like, there's no way I'm going to stay here. I need to get to that global stage, right? Like, at what point am I not in the subsidiary? And so I decided to do an MBA after I'd been at KPMG for over 2 years. I applied to ESA Business School in Barcelona for very many personal reasons. So it was the right choice for me, and I really loved it. And then while I was there, I got the chance to interview with McKinsey & Company on campus. And I remember thinking, after I got my offer from McKinsey, I had a choice of, the Lagos office, the Nairobi office, and the Joburg office. And I was like, you know what, this doesn't make sense. Like, I've lived in South Africa already. I know it. I'm born and raised in East Africa. I've worked all over East Africa, but I've never been to West Africa. So, let me just follow the adventure and see, if I get West African experience, I will be a truly Pan-African professional, which was one thing that I wanted to do. So maybe the first one, when you think about like what career-related books or resources do you give or recommend to women the most often, and why?
I read a lot of books, but I don't necessarily, I guess if I'm thinking about the most recent one that I've read that I think was really helpful or helped me think about things a little differently, it's called Ask for More. And it's a negotiation book that's written by one of the law professors from Columbia Law School. And I think it's really interesting because it's that field of like writing about negotiations is dominated by men. And so there aren't a lot of books that are written by women. And I just thought that the approach was very novel. And it was a little bit, I think it was helpful because I think sometimes the way that men look at negotiations is not necessarily that helpful for women, or women would take a different approach. And I think having that perspective of understanding that there are different ways to approach negotiations, I think for me was really interesting. So for example, she talks about the definition of negotiating and talks about it in the context of like two people on a kayak. So the two people are negotiating the direction of the kayak together. So rather than this, I'm on this end and you're on this end, thinking about it as like two people kind of working together to get to the same destination. So rather than having like a combative, sort of aggressive sort of framework, I think it actually just comes at it with a totally different approach. And to me, that was really helpful for me to have a different perspective. I'm reading right now No Rules Rules, the Netflix book, and I think that's also super interesting, not specifically for women, but just like for anybody sort of looking to be a leader at any point, because I think the infrastructure that Reed Hastings created at Netflix is one that definitely, especially if you're working in corporate and a corporation that's been around for a really long time, you can probably see some of the issues that he's trying to combat with this framework that he's articulating. And then I guess finally the book by Bob Iger on leadership is I think I thought it was really good. I think it's the run-of-the-mill sort of leadership book, but for me, I like his tone, and obviously Disney's like an incredible company. It's an exceptionally run company, and just principles that he espouses, I think for me are really aligned with the way that I kind of see leadership. And I'm quite young sort of in my career, so I think for me, it's very important to like start to think about the kind of leader that I want to be when I'm in that position. And having the ideas of the principles that you want to guide you, I think from the outset, to me, I don't think it can hurt. I mean, I won't know until later on whether this is actually helpful, but my sense is that having a strong sense of what grounds you, and at the end of the day, what will be your North Star is always front of mind for me.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Those are all good reads. I would say mine. So for me, the ones I recommend most often, typically when somebody says they want, oh, I'm looking for a mentor, or can we do a coaching session? The one book I always recommend to women is Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. And I know it gets a bad rap because it's very old. Some things are super conservative. And the title is just, like Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. What's that about? But the truth is there's so many things in there that young women struggle with. And until somebody tells you about them, you won't necessarily know. For example, talk about things like the dad complex, the way a lot of women in the workplace tend to look at older men as if they're their dads and expecting that kind of sympathy, relationship. And these guys are not all about you. They want you to be a competent professional. So you go in there with the right mindset and it falls. Or the need to be liked, because as women, we grew up with so many subliminal messages around that. And I feel that despite some of the things that may be a bit outdated or a bit traditional in that book, a lot of them actually speak to how do you get out of the girl zone as you mature in your career and be an actual woman who can get into any meeting room and take on whatever is in there with power, with boldness, and successfully do it. So that's always my first recommendation. The second one is Grit by Angela Duckworth. And basically it's about how you build resilience. I know, like, it was one of my biggest struggles, just getting into, once I transitioned, let's say Uganda, into like a McKinsey global thing happening. I need to push through. I'm developing this slowly by slowly. And eventually I'm going to be a much better professional because I have persevered. I think it's a super powerful book. And the third one for me would be The Road to Character by David Brooks as well.
Those are all great. It occurred to me when you were talking about the Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. Actually, I found myself when I started in this role, one of the things that I had like a lot of, I guess, insecurity about was that like the person that was previously in my role was a white woman who was a little bit younger than me. And my boss is, 50-something-year-old white man. And I remember being like, a little nervous because I was like, well, he saw her as his daughter and I am not any of those things, and like how am I going to be able to develop like a relationship with this person in a way that's organic and in a way where, it was very interesting. I think because I'm in the US and like I'm always in, situations where I'm like the only Black person or the only Black woman, that actually was thing that I had to navigate. I actually had to navigate the opposite, in that like I always felt like there was nothing that I really had in common, and so trying to like find that common ground with someone who you already perceive to be super different from you has definitely been something that I've had to navigate and figure out how to develop those connections.
Yeah. So how did you do it? Like, how did you actually build that particular relationship? I'm sure people would be curious.
Yeah. So it's funny. I mean, I've been at Warner now for almost 4.5 years. And I think I like had this thing where I was just like exposing different parts of my personality at different junctures. Like, I think at first I focused on competence and like just doing the best work And like, that's what you're going to know me by. It's going to be purely professional. And then I think, you know, my boss is like head of international, so we traveled a lot. So through different trips that we would take, we would just have different conversations where like he would get to know me over time. I didn't want to like have this weird, like, I didn't want to force it. Like I wanted it to be somewhat normal. So I guess like I just did it as I felt comfortable. Like I didn't do anything I didn't feel comfortable with. I didn't say anything to him that I didn't feel comfortable with. And I think that for me, that really worked. I don't think that there's any like end all be all, you know, about it. But I think that, you know, I would, you know, after I got comfortable, I would crack jokes that like maybe, you know, maybe weren't that appropriate, but like for me, I was like, this is who I am. And so like over time, I felt more comfortable like showing that part, but only after I had established that this is like, above all, like I'm a professional and I get my work done and like, you can count on me, you can rely on me. So like, I think that for me, that was like the first hurdle. And then after that, it was just more like, okay, I can just like kind of, you know, bit by bit, chunk by chunk, like show him who I am. And I like, in terms of like just the way I relate to, you know, lead people that I manage, that are my managers or whatever, I think I always focus on just like three things. Like I think your managers always they want to like look good. They want to be right. And they want to feel in control. So like, if you can manage those three things in whatever way that you feel like having a little bit of emotional intelligence to read the situation, I think once you accomplish those three things in every single situation where because they're also reporting upwards, like they're reporting to the board, reporting to CEO or whatever. And so I focus on those things in terms of my competence and then everything else, I just like do as I feel on my own time.
So it's actually so interesting. One of the things you said, and you've said a lot, I love the 3 pointers you gave, but the thing about starting with competence, right? It's one thing that many young people realize in the work. Your first sense is, I want to be liked. So you spend your time doing all these things that don't actually add value or prove your competence, like, you know, being the one to arrange the office party or being the one that's always booking the meeting room. All these things that make you like a one person, but don't establish your competency. So I think for me, one of the most things you said is, you know, the first thing to do before, like to build a relationship, first of all, is establish your competency, because then you're reliable. And once your boss can trust you, then everything else can be built on that. But otherwise, I think one of the things that people used to talk about a lot early in my career was the idea of being the loved fool in the office. Like everybody likes to keep you around and they're definitely going to smile with you, but they all know that you can't be given any real work or responsibility because you ain't it. And so your approach actually makes sure that there's no chance whatsoever of this happening.
The first thing that people talk about when they try to detract from you is about your performance. And if you give them room whatsoever to ever doubt your performance and you always show up with the best version of yourself, like to me, that's my armor. That's why I hold my head high. You can't ever talk about my work not being first rate. That's just never an option.
Think about the last 6 months with the pandemic and lockdown and all our lives changing. For you, what would you say, what investment has most positively impacted your life, your work life, or your career this year?
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, what have I done? So I actually just about 6 months ago, I was invited to join. It was a women's network, or it is a women's network called Chief. And it's anchored by this idea of like a core group. So you have a group of, 6 to 8 women that you meet with on a bi-weekly basis. And there are different exercises that you're doing. And it's not just, it's women executives who are, VPs and above or whatever. And it's each session you kind of tackle a different sort of issue, and you have this whole journey of self-understanding about like you professionally, and like helps you outline your goals and stuff like that. And I think, the program's amazing. Like, and when I signed up for it, I was like, yeah, cool, awesome. But I think the biggest learning and the biggest takeaway that I've actually gotten from this investment has been that to like actually see myself in a situation where it's all women, like primarily women on a professional level. I've never had that. I'm always surrounded by men. And I think within the first or second session, I realized the way that I show up at work was highly like defined by the fact that it was all male, and that the way that I was showing up in a group of women was totally different. Like I had always assumed, because like for me, like I'm so focused on, I'm a perfectionist. I'm like very focused on being right. And so when I would be in meetings, I wouldn't say anything unless I was like 200 or 300% sure that it was right. So I was mostly silent. And what I realized in this group of women was that I actually am much more comfortable riffing and like saying something without thinking about it and overthinking about it. And so that got me to thinking that I need to be a little bit more assertive at work. I need to not put this additional anchor of being 200% right. 100% is fine. And I think I hadn't realized how much this was affecting how I was showing up in meetings. And it's funny, when I started working with my boss, one of the things, we would go to these meetings and I wouldn't say anything. Like I would just be listening and taking notes and like hearing what was happening. And one time he's just like, why are you coming if you're not going to say anything? And I remember being really annoyed by it and being like, well, like I'm working, you see me working. And it like now it resonates with me because I'm like, I should be saying something. I have thoughts. I just didn't think it was like my place to share them at the time because I wasn't super, I hadn't poured over it like overnight and I hadn't double checked and triple checked. And I realized as a woman, when you do that, when you're silent in times when it's not an organic silence, it's a socialized silence. And I think when you do that, you're detracting from yourself, like you're dimming your own light. And a lot of leadership and a lot of people feeling confident is not necessarily what you say. It's like that you're saying it or how you're saying it. And I think I've brought that energy, even it's just been 6 months, but I've started being really intentional about bringing that energy to meetings at work. And I see a marked difference. I was taking a call the other day, my friend was here and she's like, wow, you're just like participating and you were saying all these things. And now I intentionally do that because I realized that like just sitting there and not engaging and like taking notes, that's fine. I think for the just starting somewhere or whatever, I think being a sponge is helpful, but at a certain point you need to take the training wheels off and start to be an active participant in the whatever meeting or whatever you're showing up in, because that's why people look to you as a leader or like as somebody that they want to promote and put in a position to bring other people along. If you don't say anything, like no one's really going to know. And I guess I'll end with there's a leadership program through work that I was in, and as part of that we have 360 reviews, and one of my reviews was that I'm overly critical sometimes and I don't provide solutions. And I think that is actually exactly right. I think when the meeting would be over, I would be talking to someone and I'm like, I didn't agree with this. I don't think this makes sense. Like, and this is why. But in the meeting, I didn't say anything. And I realize now that that was also a crutch, because I realized that when you're actually confident and you say something and then people act on it, there's a certain fear that attaches once that becomes a thing, because you're responsible. And so it's also about like cognizant of it. Like some of the silence is also from a place of fear that like if they actually listen to you, that that they can come back to you and say, well, you said that. And so being comfortable being like, I'm your monkey. And so being comfortable being like, I said it. If I'm wrong, I'm okay taking the L and moving on from it. That definitely like shows a courage, and that's what being a leader is about, is like being comfortable with being wrong in certain situations.
That's so interesting. First of all, that's actually one of the other lessons in Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner office, just around finding your voice in the workplace. I think one of the practical tips they give is to try and make sure you make your first contribution within the first 5 minutes of a meeting, just to establish that confidence level that, you know what, I've got a voice here. And I think for me, I struggle with that as well a lot. And when I finally found my voice, I realized it's two things. One, you're right, they won't actually know what you bring to the table, your strengths, but they also want to know how to help you. like what opportunities for growth do you need to in order to become a well-rounded professional? Like if you're not speaking, I know closed mouths don't get fed is too much of a cliche, but if you don't speak up, if nobody knows what's inside your head or what you're thinking, where your headspace is at, what your strengths and weaknesses are, nobody can help you. So you actually end up holding yourself back. You're right. And I'm so glad that's a very good investment, I would say.
Yeah, and I guess like, as you're speaking, it reminded me of, I mean, more recently I've been having these conversations with our CEOs or whatever, and about like my career journey. And I was talking to the CEO of a part of our business, and he was basically like, look, you deliver excellent work. Everyone like is super confident about your level of your capacity and like your ability to execute. But you don't prioritize your own ambition. And I don't know him really well, but that really stuck with me because I was like, wow, I guess you're right. Yeah. Like in this like, deep sort of focus on being competent, I actually lost sight of the fact that there's also a part of me that needs to be strategic and needs to think about what is next? Like, how is what I'm doing now like going to take me? It's like 50% competence and then 50% sort of how people view you and all these sort of soft skills that I also needed to then now at the point I've been here for 4 years, I am the expert. Like I've been doing this for long enough that I can, I can be confident that I'm right. I can now shift to a different sort of mode or a different, I can take that competence and amplify it in a way.
Yeah. What advice would you give to a smart, driven young Black woman about how to succeed at work? And what advice should they ignore? I think both those coins are more important. We've already spoken a bit about finding your voice in the workplace and how to kind of establish credibility and competence. What else do you think people should prioritize, young women should prioritize, and what should they not listen to from your perspective?
Yeah. So I guess I'll take this in two parts. So I have primarily only worked for white men my entire career. And that's just a function of like working at a big law firm and being in New York, whatever. But I did work for one Black female partner, and she's my mentor. She's super instrumental in just like how I approach being a professional in the workplace. And I remember one time I'd come to her with just a situation that I was having sort of difficulty with. And she just paused me and she was like, you need to take every decision and approach every situation from the vantage point of a privileged white male. And she was like, you need to take that and you need to apply it. Because I think as women, especially as Black women, we have this tendency to have, from imposter syndrome to like not really understanding how to contort ourselves to fit within this framework of what corporate is, because it's very male. And just like doubting yourself. And actually it's served as like kind of just a centering piece of advice for me. So every time I walk into a room, I put that sort of front of mind. And you like, to me, it's like a psychological shift in the way that like I even show up, because it's that whole thing of like, I'm the expert. People should listen to me. I want what I want, and that's okay. Like all these like sort of very direct and clear ideas of like your desires or what you're trying to accomplish, and being very like adamant about it. I think that has been super helpful for me. And I think like for any woman, any privileged man, just like put yourself in those shoes and approach every situation, every decision from that vantage point. I think it's been super helpful for me, and I tell everybody about it. In also coming into spaces where like no one looks like you or you feel particularly uncomfortable, the importance of showing up that you want to show up and not just like as you think you're expected to. So I remember I was having a little bit just this idea of like, I work with a bunch of white men and I don't know how to connect with them and whatever. And I remember telling like a friend about this, and he was like, well, you wear all this jewelry and like all this stuff, and it's like very distracting. So maybe you think about maybe not wearing that and like just like try to wear a shirt and like blend in. And I remember being like, oh, well, no, I'm not doing that. And I think for me, it's like walking into spaces where people don't look like you or you're unique. I think the whole point is that you show up as yourself, and you force people to accept you the way you are. And there's like a James Baldwin quote about like forcing the world to accept you as how you are is like, that's like freedom. And so I remember taking that and being like, oh, that is the exact piece of advice that I never want to take and I would never take. But it's this idea of being authentic and always showing up as you are, because showing up as someone else is not sustainable. Like you can't keep up that act. And so like,
not at all.
I'm like, I'm going to wear my rings. I'm going to wear my jewelry. I'm going to wear like my gold glass because that's who I am. And like, you're going to accept it because that's what you're getting, you know? And I think that's super important. And I think it also gives you that confidence about, you know, I'm showing up as, you know, in the shoes of a privileged man. I'm doing exactly what I want. And I think that's like, that to me is also very like fundamental.
There's two things I want to talk about, which is one that kind of addresses women who might have been laid off during this time, but also general career growth strategies. And I think the two are kind of related, right? So I don't know if you've ever been laid off. I haven't, but I don't know if you've ever experienced that, like one day, having a job one day and not having one another the next. You know, how does somebody, a young person especially, just going out, deal with something like this? And then beyond that, or whether you've been laid off or not, so maybe you just feel like you're at a standstill in your career and you've stalled. What in your experience, what strategies do you think would make sense or would work for young women who find themselves in a situation that they still have a hunger for like corporate growth?
Yeah, in terms of like whether I've ever lost a job, I've fortunately not ever had to deal with that, so I can't really give direct advice about it. But I think I did feel stuck after 3-4 years being a lawyer, and I realized that I felt stuck because what I was doing just wasn't aligned with what I felt like my skill set and like how I really wanted to express myself. Like I didn't necessarily want to be sitting in a room drafting credit agreements and, you know, certificates and stuff like that. That just didn't seem like my passion. I looked up. I looked at the partners and like, okay, if I stay here for another 5 years, like this is what it's going to be. Does this look appealing to me? And the answer was no. So I knew I had to leave. And so once I knew that I wanted to leave, I think I touched on this a bit, but like really doing the work with yourself to figure out like what it is that you're optimizing for. Like, because the way that I think of, there are different parts of every job. One is like the substance of the job. And then there's like the culture of the place that you're working in. And then it's like the individual actual like fulfillment. Like, are you happy, you know, doing this? So like, sometimes one job fulfills 2 out of the 3 things, or another job fulfills like, you know, another 2 of the 3 things. Maybe the you're happy doing your job and the substance is great, but like the culture sucks and you hate your boss. Like, you know, so I really focused on the substance. And I was like, that's all I care about. I just want to make sure that the substance of the work is exactly what I want to do. And understanding that, you know, transitioning from being a lawyer to being on the business side, I hadn't gotten an MBA. So like there's certain things that I have to do. So I think for me, I really focused on that and then took it that way. Fortunately, I got the job, but I also had to take courses while working. I had to take accounting. I had to take corporate finance. I just did these on my own. I paid for them because I was working a lot with our financial planning and analysis teams when we're looking at different investments. And I needed to understand models. Like I needed to be able to like ask questions about the assumptions that they were making. And I wasn't super comfortable. And part of it is like, as lawyers, you don't feel particularly comfortable with numbers. They're like scary. And I knew I needed to get out of that. So I took whatever steps I felt like I needed to like provide myself with the skill set that I needed to succeed. So I think part of it is also just understanding that there's going to be work involved and like also being willing to put in that work. So I think getting honest with yourself about what you're trying to accomplish, getting honest with yourself about the amount of work it's going to take to do it. And then finally, I think like those are the 2 main things really. And I guess now the world is upside down. So I can't, you know, I think looking for a job right now would be just like extremely difficult. But I take calls all the time from people who are looking to like transition from being a lawyer into other, fields, either through like the Princeton Alumni Network or like people who find me on LinkedIn or whatever. And I think being in the pandemic, I have more time where I'm just like kind of sitting, and I'm always very willing to, connect with people who want some kind of advice or whatever. So I think like being comfortable enough to reach out to people who you don't necessarily know, and like being okay if you hear from them or not, is like just like super important. Like throw away your ego, go out there, ask for the worst that you can, that'll happen is that you'll get silence. Like that doesn't hurt anyone. So I think being comfortable reaching out to people who are in like a field or an industry that you're interested in, or, through your alumni network or whatever. I think these are all things that are helpful. I got my job because my boss also went to Princeton. So I actually found out about the job through like the Princeton listserv, like people send stuff through there. So like always just like being open about, understanding that these opportunities can kind of come from anywhere.
Yeah, I hear you. For me, I would say, first of all, just thinking about just getting laid off, right? I think for my first advice is always preventative. So I do this for a living, like I'm in the jobs business, right? So first of all, I'd say as a woman and generally as a professional, we should get out of the mindset of putting ourselves at the mercy of our employers, in the sense that for me, no matter what job I'm in, I'm always thinking about my identity outside this role. I'm always thinking about self-sustainability beyond the role. And I'm always thinking about next steps. Not that I'm looking to move. Like, for example, I'm very, very comfortable in my role right now. I don't think I'm going to leave this job for the next, X years or so. But my LinkedIn is still open to recruiters because I just want to know what's out there. So I think we should always take a culture of ownership towards our own career, in the sense that, one, if you're working, think about a side hustle. If you can do that, especially in Africa, right? Think about a small side hustle. What skills do you have? Make sure you have some money coming on the side. That's the first thing. Second thing is build a network, as you've mentioned. Reach out to people you're shy about. I think typically if you need the connection, it's too late to build it. So if you can, as you're working, as you've got a platform, whatever size that platform is, build a network with it, such that if should the time come and you've been laid off, you've got some people to reach out to, they've got some rapport with already, and you're not just starting from scratch. So those are my two solid pieces of advice. And then just remember that, because with today's times, I'm thinking about the pandemic, you could be the best professional out there and you'll still be laid off, not because of you, but because of the company and what the company needs. So if you've thought about those plan B, I think it gives you a powerful place to start. Once you've been laid off, I think what you mentioned is very, very true as well. What are the opportunities out there, and how do I prepare myself for them? Do I need training courses? Do I need to learn? Do I need to brush up on some old skills that I've forgotten? Do I need to reach out to somebody else, like within my network? But basically preparing yourself and then putting out there into the world what you want. I took a career break for 6 months, and I remember what I did at the time. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have a job offer, but I made it such that my entire life spoke to the fact that I wanted to work in human capital. So my LinkedIn said that, everybody on WhatsApp knew, everybody asked me, what are you trying to do? I'm like, I'm not sure yet, but it needs to be human capital. And I turned down opportunities I didn't want. Maybe you don't have that privilege, but I think the clearer you are about what you want to do next, the better people can help you also. If you show up and say, I don't have a job, I'm looking for a job, like what kind of job? What do you want to do? What are you passionate about? What state? Like all those questions, sort them out internally before you start reaching out to people, so they know how to help you. Again, for me, if you're feeling stuck, I think when it comes to career growth, my own trajectory has always been one of bold moves. Like if I'm unhappy, I take a drastic move to change it, Don't like what I'm doing, go back to school. Don't like this, move to Nigeria. Don't like this, take a break. And again, because I'm a decisive person and not everybody can do that. But I think even in your workplace, if you're looking for a promotion, go boldly in that direction. Say, guys, I want to do this. Ask for it, right? I want to try this. I'm looking for opportunity in this area. I think speaking out, there's so many opportunities out there that women miss out because we don't speak out. Like, who am I to deserve this? Why should I be the one to reach out? But again, if you're not speaking, nobody knows how to help you. And so if you're feeling stuck, just think about, from your perspective, what could possibly help you be unstuck, and then pursue it relentlessly. As a privileged white man, I've learned something new today. I think that's the advice I would give. So we've got 3 more minutes. Do you have any closing remarks?
No, I think we kind of, the one thing that you said about self-sustainability, I tell everybody, this is not my father's company. Like, it's not like, right. I don't have this company. Like, I'm going to leave as soon as I stop feeling fulfilled, or as soon as I stop growing. So it's not personal. It's just, this is about my development. This is about my career. And so if something stops giving me what I need, then I think that you have every right to exit the situation. And I think the only way that I'm different from you is that I'm not necessarily super like, I realize it and then I go, I actually cogitate a lot longer. But once I cogitate and get to the point of a decision, I'm very firm in that decision. So I think like it's important for people to also realize that like you can be like Hilda and be like, I'm out. Or you can also be like, I think I'm out, but I need some time to think about it. And then once you decide and you do it.
Some time.
Yeah, it just always, like for me, it's always like time and like really sitting with the feelings and sitting with the thoughts, and then like really like thinking and planning and doing pros cons lists and all that stuff. And that really helps me like as a process to feel comfortable with my decision. So I think that either way is right. That was the one point.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, definitely. Either way is right. And again, it all boils down to our personality types as well, right? Some people are more able to endure like a difficult or indecisive situation than others. Like I know I would be miserable, but just for, again, that it speaks back to what we said around authenticity, right? Don't do things that don't feel natural to you or everything, like everything you're going to use to build your career. A lot of it is going to come from within, like your intuition, your personality, the strengths you hold. So yeah, don't follow my advice if you're that kind of person. There's very many ways to get there.
Yeah, and I heard this one quote the other day that I thought was really just like helpful in thinking about some of these like career switches. And it's like being able to discern the difference between challenge and pain is key to preserving your mental.
That is so true.
Like working in an environment where like if you just like constantly just don't feel value, don't like feel like there's any way that you're growing, that's not a challenge. That's just like terrible. And you should leave from that situation. So I think that parts of your life, like not just work, but I think even personally, like across the board, like really like hone in on that. Like, is this a challenge or am I just putting myself through unnecessary pain? And I think like, to like sort of filter through some of the information and help you see more clearly.
Yeah. No, definitely makes sense. Okay, I think we're out of time now. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you so much, Temi. And I hope everybody who's watching this this fireside chat has gotten a lot from your experience and what I've shared of mine as well.
Are you interested in the coolest clutch ever? You should try the watch. Our watch is multi-functional. You can carry it to the club, makeup, money, phone, essentials. And you're off. It's your sister's wedding day and you need a pretty little thing. You need a watch. You have to go to work, you have a board presentation, you need somewhere nice for your documents, your laptop, your basics at work. You need the watch. It's available in different colors, so let us know which colors you'd like to see, and we would love you to have our watch.
My lesson for this year financially would be to always prepare and to always make sure that you save for a rainy day.
Savings and investments. 2020 was really a year, so I really had to be accountable for every naira I was making or every naira I had made. So investments really helped me greatly.
The biggest finance lesson I learned in 2020, I had to understand, I had to teach myself that it was okay to tell my loved ones that I don't have money to give them when all that is left is my savings. And because I didn't learn how to say no early, I used to dip into my savings just because I didn't want to be seen as a bad person. And then I always used to end up broke.
The biggest financial lesson I've learned in 2020 is that emergencies are just that. You do not anticipate them and you do not plan for them. So always have your rainy day account served up and always save as much as possible. The rule of thumb is just to have 3 months worth of your salary and expenses saved up. But in this pandemic where nothing is guaranteed, my tip is 6 months and above. And if you can put any more into that cash account, just put as much as you can.
Another lesson that I learned this year is to always have some cash saved aside, like emergency funds. I know you can't save your way into being wealthy or being rich, but it's good to always have that, emergency fund saved aside.
Interesting ladies from 4 different African countries. We're looking at how they plan their finances. Financial planning, personal financial planning, just as the name implies, personal, is how you make your money choices. So let's look at how these ladies make their money choices.
I'm a lawyer and I currently earn about 233,000 naira.
I'm a communication consultant based in Kenya and I earn 150,000 Kenya shillings.
I am a fashion designer. I earn 4,000 Ghana cedis a month.
I am a junior operator at a paper manufacturing company and I earn 15K a month.
My first job was a teaching job, a student teaching job, and I earned hourly as an hourly rate. I don't remember what the hourly rate was, but I know that my take home was somewhere in between 15,000 and 18,000 monthly.
My first job was a TV producer in one of the production companies here in Kenya, and I was earning 12,000 Kenya shilling.
My first job, I was an assistant to a fashion designer. I must say I didn't really earn much. I earned about 300 Ghana cedis a month.
My first job, I was a manufacturing operator and I was earning 3.5.
At the time I had my first job, I had no degree. I was still a student. Now I have 2 degrees. Now I earn about 1,000%. There's 1,000% increase.
My income grew from my first salary to what I'm currently earning because of the skill set. I did not have enough skill sets when I was starting. I only had 1 skill, but now over the years I can say I have over 5 skills, which has enabled my growth in my salary and also in my experience.
I was made the teaching assistant for my service. So I taught for about a year. And whilst I was doing the teaching, I realized that, wait, I can make a living out of this. So I decided, why not teach fashion, be a fashion designer, and then own a fashion school? So as I'm speaking, I am a teacher and then a fashion designer, and I own my own fashion school.
My salary grew when I changed where I was working, because I was first working for a glass manufacturing company when I was the manufacturing operator.
The comms consultant actually earns the most out of the 4 of them. But the interesting thing is that the lawyer actually started investing from when she was a student, right? She started investing from when she was a student, and she developed herself and increased her earnings. So over time, her earnings increased. So she invested in herself. So did the comms consultant and also the fashion designer. They invested in themselves at some point, and that increased their earnings. But looking at our operators, we will say that our increases in earnings is as a result of luck, and that may not always happen all the time. The fashion designer, what she's doing very right is she has multiple streams of income. She's a teacher, she's a fashion designer, and she also has a school, which is very important. So what the others can also do right is also to look at multiple streams of income whereby they'll be able to get more money into their savings.
My relationship with money is strict and very thorough. I'm very particular about what I spend money on, how much goes on what, and my savings.
I think my relationship with my money is healthy because I feel I'm at a level where I can be able to control the money. It does not control me.
I'm the sort of person that likes to save, but I also know that money goes for a purpose. So when there's the need, I allow myself to give out some money.
My relationship with money is average. It's not good and it's not bad.
The lawyer explains that she has strict relationship with money, which is very good. It's good to be disciplined when it comes to money. And the thing with that is you're on a strict budget, and sometimes, it's good to also be able to pamper yourself a little bit. So while you're strict with money, please just try and spend a little bit on yourself. Over strict may not be too good. Now, the consultant, she says she has control over her money, which is also very good. However, what she could be doing is she could fall into the trap of impulse buying because she has control over her money. So she feels, oh, I have the money, I can do whatever I want with my money. But if you're very strict, then you'll be able to really know, okay, what is important to me and what is not important to me at every point in time. Not just because you have control over your money, then you'll be able to spend anyhow. No, you should be able to know what's important to you. Then to the fashion designer, she says she likes to save, which is very good. Everyone should love to save. And the lady who says she has, and the South African who says she has like not so good relationship, average, right? Relationship with money. Now, the first thing is she understands that she has average relationship with money, and she has understood that. That means that the first step in identifying any problem is actually to know that you have a problem. Now she's identified that, so the next thing is, how do I get better? Now that you have realized the problem you have, how do you get better?
All of my money goes, but there's a breakdown, there's an explanation. So I spend about 5,000 to 7,000 naira on call time. I spend about 10,235,000 naira on data, thanks to VAT, by the way. I also spend about 5,000 to 8,000 on raw food products. That's like your raw rice, your raw beans, chicken, stew, and all of that. Lunch at the office is usually about 15,000 naira monthly. Then transport and money in hand. That's usually about 10,000 naira weekly. I also pay my tithe. I pay nothing less than 18,000, between 18 and 20,000 monthly on my tithe. My savings, yes. So savings-wise, once I get my salary, I usually throw about 100 to 120,000 naira in savings that I cannot touch. So at this point, I just want to tell you people that if I perish with that savings. Yeah, but that money is going to go in savings. Okay, sometimes, birthdays, I want to buy something for a friend, or it's usually a joint effort. So I see myself doing about 3,000 to 5,000 monthly on that. At this point, just in case you're wondering where my money for like side things are, like, oh, what if you want to eat out and all of that, I don't do that very much. I try as much as possible to live within this budget that's giving you.
I earn 150,000 Kenya shillings. And my monthly budget is I pay tax of 7,500 Kenya shillings per month. I use also 15,000 Kenya shillings to pay my tithe. and I ensure that I save at least 50,000 Kenya shillings, and I pay rent of 20,000 Kenya shillings. I pay food for 10,000 Kenya shillings every month, and I use transport or fuel of about 10,000 Kenya shillings every month. I also pay for 10,000 Kenya shillings every month for entertainment, that's concerts, festivals, any activity that is happening in a month. And for beauty, that's 10,000 Kenya shillings, which is inclusive of fashion. And the rest of about 17,000 Kenya shillings I give my mother.
I spend about 200 cedis on data and credits. I use a lot of data. I mean, I have brands, I have things, clothes that I like to upload, and then I also like to download some stuff. And I like to share about my school so that when I'm doing admissions, I do all those things with my credits and my data. So that also goes into it. I also use about 150 Ghana cedis for my personal care, like for my nails and my hair and then my kids' hair. And then I spend 50 Ghana cedis on water. That leaves me with 100 cedis, which I practically put down for any kind of emergency. I have kids, so I spend a lot, especially on groceries. The children have to eat. So on a monthly basis, I spend about 800 Ghana cedis on groceries. Then I spend about 300 on fuel monthly, and then 400 Ghana cedis on electricity.
Well, before deductions, it's 15K, and then it's gonna be my UIF, which is 1.4, and then that will be my union money, which is 100 bucks, and then there is council money, which is like, what? I think it's 10 Rand. And then there will be my Provident Fund, which is 1.8, yes. And then afterwards, I'll be left with 13K. Then there is my medical aid, which is 500 Rand every month. And then I'll be left with around about 12.5. And then from there on, it's grocery money, obviously, and black tax in between. So you understand, when you're the only person who's working at home, you're the breadwinner. So it's grocery money. My brother needs to go to school, so there is also that. And there's transport money because like petrol, saving on petrol, so it's 500 Rand every month. So I'll be left roughly with around about 9,000 afterwards, and then I put away 3,000 every month. So I'll be left with maybe, give or take, 5,000 to 6,000.
So let's talk about their budget. It would appear that the four ladies have some level of financial literacy because they were all aware of their expenses. Now, it's very good. However, some of them can actually do better. Now, let's look at the 50-30-20 rule. They've all not done badly. Only for the operator, who just saves about 20% of her entire earnings. So I think she can do more, and we'll talk about the four of them. The fashion designer is not done badly at all. She has a family, and she's able to actually invest about 50% of her entire savings, which is really commendable. She puts very little to her wants, just about 6% for wants. I don't know how she manages that, but I mean, it's commendable. She's doing really well in that regard. Now, even though the lawyer is also investing about 50% of our investment, of our earnings rather, I think she can do better if we're going to compare her to the fashion designer. Now to the comms communication. Yes, she earns the most, but she's not, investing as much as the fashion designer and the lawyer. And she also appears to be single. Her black tax is high. yeah, I know she wants to take care of her mother, but her black tax is kind of high. So I think she could actually, look at that aspect. Because again, when she starts having a family of her own, her savings may reduce further. So now she has about just 30% in her savings. She could look at how she can increase this so that by the time she has a family of her own, she can reduce her savings at that time. Then to the operator, yeah, she mentioned that she's like the breadwinner of the family and all. It's good, but I think she also needs she needs to put some money to pay herself, right? She needs some self-development, which is very, very key. So that yes, you have a family to take care of, but guess what? By the time you start earning more money, you'll be able to also feed, help your family better. So self-development is really key. I think she needs to save towards self-development.
My most frequent expense is food.
My most frequent expense is food.
My most frequent expense is groceries.
I love eating. I'm a foodie, so I always go to a restaurant.
What most of my money went into last month was my savings.
Purchase of furniture, which costed me about 100,000 Kenya shillings.
Was on groceries.
Preparing for my grandmother's birthday.
Plus or minus 800,000 naira.
My current savings are 800,000 Kenya shillings.
I will say I have about 30,000 Ghana cedis in my account.
I have 18K in my savings account because I save like 3,000 every month.
$1 million. I hit that target. And also by the end of next year, I'd like to buy a car.
Save over the years to be able to buy a home where my family and can be able to spend time in the house, in their own house, without having to pay rent every month.
I want to refurbish my house, well, my parents' house. So that's the goal right now.
Last but not the least, let's talk about their goals. Now, in financial planning, goals is very key. You need to know the destination where you want to go to. And in setting your goals have to be SMART. SMART means S for specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be achievable, it has to be realistic, and it has to have a time frame when you want to achieve it, right? So let's look at the three of them who told us about their goals. The lawyer's short-term goal is actually to buy a car, and she's put it, which means that's specific. She wants to buy a car. The car is a specific item, and it's time-bound because she says she wants to buy a car the following year, right? And it's measurable because she said she was going to be putting she invests 100,000 naira every month. So that means that to be able to buy her car, the car will cost, she'll know the amount, the cost of the car she wants to get. So she'll be able to know, have I reached my goal? She has to measure it. So fantastic. She has a goal, a short-term goal, which is well-defined. Now let's talk about the cons consultant. Her goal is to buy a house, which is very specific. It's okay. But the time frame was not specified. We don't know when she wants to achieve that. Now, I also want to believe that she has an idea of the cost of the house she wants to buy. And because she saves, so that means that it will be measurable for her. By the time she knows the cost of the house, she will be able to measure a performance over time to achieving that goal. However, my concern for her is that she could be an impulse buyer. Remember that she talked about her last expensive item, which was a furniture, and that cost her about half of her earnings. And that indicates that she may have taken, she may have not invested at all that month, or she may have dipped into her earnings. So if she's an impulse buyer, and recall that she says she loves to have control over her money, with such character, she could be an impulse buyer. And if she's not careful, she may not be able to achieve her goal. And to our operator, her goal is actually to refurbish her house. Now, I was surprised because I would have thought that she would also have the goal to self-develop, right? But her goal, she's a family person. So her goal is to refurbish her house, which is not bad. But again, yes, she has a goal, but it wasn't really that specific. How much are you looking to spend in refurbishing the house? When do you want to refurbish the house? You need to be more specific. And like I always say to her, please try to invest in yourself. Self-development is very key. And one thing across all the 4 ladies, I would say, is that maybe it's maybe something that is very peculiar to African ladies. We try to look after our own. So black tax was very constant across the 4 ladies, which is commendable. We look out for each other, very good. But at the same time, while we think of the black tax, also think about yourself. Don't do too much so that you wouldn't disrupt your own life. Very important for you to think about that. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe we have gotten to the end of the summit. My girls, we've danced, we've laughed, we've debated, and most importantly, connected as Black women all over the world. At this point, I would like to say a huge thank you to all our sponsors and partners who have helped make this momentous event possible, as well as all of you in the comment section. I mean, it's really about you guys, you know. Don't tell the sponsors so they can pay me after this. Okay? Yeah. All right. Don't forget, always celebrate and love your Black girl magic. I'm Seyitan Atigarin, and this has been the Globally Black Summit. Woo! It's a wrap. See you next time.